Nippon Hoso Podcast Station.
Today's phrase is 下げる頭持ってなくてもいい人を思う心は持て Yeah, I said spoiler alert Spoiler alert 大きく BB って出してくださいね Giant spoiler alert Anime English Club with Sal Yamaki Hello everyone and welcome to episode 9 of the Anime English Club. I'm your host, Sal Yamaki. よろしくお願いします。Hi, so this week it's been, 3 days since I came back from AFA Indonesia 2025. It's been 6 years since I last went to Indonesia, but I went to Indonesia this week. And I am very upset that I don't have a reason to be jet lagged because there's only a 2-hour time difference.Usually whenever I come back from overseas events, I can tell my manager I need a day off because I'm so tired from the jet lag. But there is no jet lag because it's only 2-hour difference. So I have no excuse to be tired. So good morning, guys. I am wide awake and I'm so excited for this week's episode. So let's dive right in. This week, we're going to be talking about Tokyo Revengers! My singing will not affect copyright. Hi! So for those of you that do not know Tokyo Revengers, let me just explain the story behind it. Tokyo Revengers was created by Ken Wakui and serialized in Weekly Shonen Magazine from March 2017 to November 2022. The anime adaptation premiered in April 2021 with additional seasons following in 2023. And this year marks a special milestone. We're celebrating the 5th anniversary of the anime's debut with exciting new projects and events here in Japan.The story follows Takemichi Hanagaki, a 26-year-old part-time worker living a miserable life, who discovers that his middle school girlfriend, Hinata, was killed by the notorious Tokyo Manji gang. After being pushed onto train tracks, he mysteriously time leaps back 12 years to his middle school days, the peak of his life. Determined to save his girlfriend and transform himself from someone who always ran away,Takemichi begins his life's revenge. The series combines delinquent, kakofuryo, manga elements with science fiction and action, creating a unique time leap suspense story. Hi, Tokyo Revengers is literally what got me through COVID. I read it so many times. My favorite being, of course, Chifuyu.Love him. But yeah, the only thing I couldn't relate was the part where middle school was the peak of his life. Middle school was literally the rock bottom of my life. So that's something I cannot relate to. But let's dive right into today's phrase. So without further ado, today's phrase is 下げる頭持ってなくてもいい人を思う心は持て Hi, so if you say that in English, It's not that you have to bow your head, just have a heart that cares. This is from Season 1, Episode 5. This phrase comes from one of the most powerful moments in Tokyo Revengers. Doraken and Mikey visit the hospital to see Pachin's girlfriend, who was brutally attacked by a rival gang. When her angry parents confront them, Doraken bows deeply and takes responsibility, even though they weren't the ones who hurt her.Mikey doesn't understand why they should apologize for something they didn't do, but Doraken teaches him this crucial lesson about leadership and empathy. Hi. Okay, well, first of all, number one rule in Tokyo Revengers was in these gang members was you're not supposed to hurt people that aren't connected to the gang. So this whole part about Pachin's girlfriend being brutally attacked was a very eye-opening moment. People around you can also be affected. So, I wouldn't mind being affected if that meant that I could be with Matsuno Chifuyu, honestly. Best man ever. Hi. Alright, so let's look at the vocabulary. 人を思う心は持て Just have a heart that cares. Just have a heart that cares is a literal translation of 人の心を思う心は持て But in Japanese, or in English, there's also very different ways to express that. So it could have been you don't have to bow your head, show empathy. That could have been a phrase he could have used, show empathy. 他人の気持ちを理解するっていう言葉で show empathy って言葉もありますし be considerate. You don't have to bow your head, just please be considerate. He could have said that as well. Have compassion, think of others, be mindful of others. Those are all the phrases they could have used. But in the translation, they decided to use have a heart that cares for others, which is a literal translation of 人を思う心は持って. And it worked perfectly fine. So I feel like this is one of the times in anime where the subtitles used a literal translation and it worked in both languages. Hi. So, when Doraken said 下げる頭持ってなくていい人を思う心を持って, like it's not that you have to bow your head, just have a heart that cares. So the significance behind this phrase is in Japanese or in Japan in general, bowing your head, that physical gesture in itself shows that you're sorry and everything. But, just bowing your head doesn't actually mean that it's coming from your heart. And that's why Doraken said, like, it's not that you have to bow your head, just have a heart that cares. Like, he doesn't want Mikey to just bow his head just 'cause and just, like, show Pachin's girlfriend's parents that he's sorry in just, like, an action that he doesn't really mean. He wants Mikey to never forget to have a heart to care for others and, living this dangerous life in the gang. He wants Mikey to remember that people around them have a potential of getting hurt, so they need to be very mindful and careful. And I feel like that life lesson that I can taught to Mikey was something that shaped who Mikey was. So as the story goes on, later on when, oh my gosh, spoiler alert, if you guys haven't really watched it that much, Doraken dies in one of the time leaps. Yeah, I said spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Okay, beepって出してくださいね. Giant spoiler alert. Doraken does die once in one of the time leaps. And after he dies, because there's nobody to Mikey, there's nobody next to Mikey who teaches Mikey these things, about life and about having a heart to, having a heart for others. Mikey kind of goes the wrong path. He kind of falls off the path and he becomes a very dark Mikey that nobody can respect, One of the rules for Tokyo Revengers and the Tokyo Manji gang was, don't hurt people outside of the gang. Don't hurt girls. Don't hurt the weak. That was the rules for Tokyo Manji gang. But after Doraken died and after Mikey turned into Dark Mikey, Tokyo Manji, they started hurting like innocent people. And I feel like that's because Doraken wasn't there. And that was another reason why Takemichi had to go back another time and be like, oh, damn it. Like Mikey lost it again. So, yeah, this phrase is a very, very important phrase in the whole entire series. It kind of focuses on the fact that Doraken was there to keep Mikey on his toes and, like, to keep him, like, there, in the moment. Hi. Also, bowing your head doesn't just mean apologizing. The action of lowering your head is a sign of respect. So I think it was in episode 1 when Tokyo Manjikai was having a meeting and one of the gang members greeted Mikey. He greeted Mikey, standing up and he was like, oh, otsukaresama desu. But then Doraken literally kicked him in the stomach to have him like bow his head, going like, ooh, because he kicked his stomach. And Doraken was like, hey, like that's how low your head should be when you greet Mikey. So yeah, it's not about just bowing your head to say sorry. In Japan, bowing your head is a sign of showing respect. So in Tokyo Revengers, you can see many aspects of how you should bow your head. So when you greet somebody who's above you and when you want to apologize, Ohayo gozaimasu, you would also greet your... so when you say Ohayo gozaimasu, you would also bow your head. And then when you say sumimasen, you would also bow. Arigatou gozaimasu, gratitude, you would also bow your head. I just want to say, oh my gosh, where did this come from? You know, when a lot of tourists, when they're in Japan and when they're super drunk out in the streets in Shibuya, they do this thing where they put their hands together and move their elbows in like a 90-degree angle and be like, arigatou gozaimasu. Like, they think that this is how Japanese people greet people. This is not how we greet people. I feel like this is some sort of like stereotype that people have overseas, that a lot of Asian people, like, this is how they bow. This is not how they bow. So if you're ever gonna come to Japan, and if you're ever gonna get drunk on the streets of Shibuya, do not go around walking around Shibuya being like, arigatou gozaimasu, ohayou gozaimasu to Japanese people, because that is so wrong. Hi. The correct way, there's many different ways actually that you can bow. That's not this actually. I've never seen this. This is like the only wrong way to do it. But the correct way would probably be to just like have your hand, you know, dangle by your side and just be like, ohayou gozaimasu, you know, just leave it there. Keep it straight down your body and just bow. Hi. Don't do all this weird stuff, okay? That is so weird. Hi. This 角度, the angle. Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, so 45-degree angle is the best way. It's the most average, I guess, or the most polite way. That's how it should be done. But I feel like a lot of idols, especially me, on stage, we do like a whole entire 90-degree angle. Like, we do this whole entire 90-degree bow. You can do that as well, I guess. Yeah, what's the difference between a 45-degree angle and a 90-degree? Because Doraken expected a 90-degree bow. Yeah, when he kicked one of the gang members in the stomach. So 90-degree. I feel like 45-degree angle, you can still see their face, you know? So if you want to be like super sorry, you do a 90-degree where you can't even see your face. So I guess the angle changes depending on how sorry you are. Hi, this. Let's go to pronunciation. じゃあまず、let's try out this week's phrase one more time. 下げる頭持ってなくてもいい。人を思う心は持て。So in English, it's not that you have to bow your head, just have a heart that cares. もう一度。It's not that you have to bow your head, just have a heart that cares. Hi. The two phrases I think that are hard to pronounce here would probably be bow and heart. Just because bow, very annoying thing in English, okay? In English, there are many words where it's spelt the same, but it's pronounced differently and it means different things. So for instance, bow means, you know, like bow your head. But if you read it as bow, it means like a bow in your ribbon, like a ribbon. Or if you use it as a like bow and arrow, it means like yumi. Hi. So there's so many different meaning behind bow. So it's very annoying. You're just gonna have to read the phrases that come in that are before and after the phrase bow to just know how you should pronounce it. But in this case, you pronounce it bow. I almost said bow. Oof. Bow. You have to bow your head. はい。頭を下げるは bow の方ですね。イントネーションは。So bow. Bow. How would I say bow? Pronounce bow. Bow. Make finger guns. Finger guns 作って、and then, you know, where you go like pew, 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 pew. Change that to bow, 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 bow. Like an SE, like some noise. Just bow. And then emphasis on the B. Bow. Bow に、B に emphasis したら、if you emphasize the B, the ow just like comes afterwards, like naturally. Bow. ですよね。一回やってみてください。
Bow.
ほら、いきます。See? Bow. So just emphasis on the B. And then next, heart. Hi. Heart, when people's like first language isn't English, I feel like a lot of the times they pronounce heart almost like hurt, like I'm hurt, but that would mean very different things. So heart in Japanese would be hato. So I don't want you guys pronouncing it like hot. That sounds like a British way of saying hurt. I'm hot. So where would I emphasize? Heart. ね、hurt would kind of be like, when you pronounce hurt, I feel like your mouth is a bit smaller, like hurt. Whereas in heart, you have to open your mouth wider in the beginning, like heart versus hurt. Do you see the difference in my mouth? I'm sorry. If you're just listening to the podcast, I'm sorry. I'm talking into the camera. So please go watch the YouTube video. Hi. Like, hurt feels like I'm trying to speak with like a ginormous boba straw, like a tapioca straw. Hurt. Like I could just like fit a huge straw in my mouth. But heart is probably when I'm trying to eat like a hamburger, like heart. Yeah. Heart. だから、ハートって言いたいとき, if you want to say heart, pretend like you're eating a hamburger. And if you want to say hurt, like ouch, like hurt, I'm hurt. Pretend like you're trying to take a sip. So if you're at McDonald's or something, you can practice it being like heart, hurt. Hi. Please practice it that way. And now you are fluent. Thank you. You're welcome. Hi. And that is this week's pronunciation.
島田秀平とオカルトさん、なんと公開収録が決まりました。日時は7月の12日土曜日、夕方5時半から6時半までの1時間です。会場は神奈川県の三浦海岸、京急三浦海岸駅すぐ三浦ファンビーチの特設ステージです。ゲストはなんと呪物コレクターの田中俊之さん。観覧は無料、どなたでもご覧いただけます。さらに会場では番組ステッカーをプレゼント。詳しくは島田秀平とオカルトさんの公式 X をご覧ください。
アニメイングリッシュクラブ with サリー・アマキ。
Next is the culture context. Hi. So the reason why I love Tokyo Revengers, other than the plot, is the empathy they have for each other. Like they have so much nakamaishiki. Nakamaishiki. How do I say nakamaishiki? There was actually a letter today from one of you guys about nakama. Let me explain that first. Let me read this first, and then we'll get into this.
はい。今日は、七し。Oh, no name, anonymous. Thank you, mysterious person. いつも配信を楽しく聞いています。ありがとうございます。英語を話されている方に質問があります。英語字幕でアニメを視聴されている皆様は、仲間の意味合いを文脈から捉えてるんでしょうか？アニメの英語字幕を見ていていつも、仲間をフレンドと訳されていることに疑問に思っていました。仲間は少年アニメであればあらゆるアニメで使われ、時にエモーショナルな、重要な場面で使われたりします。その際にフレンドと訳されているともったいなく思ってしまっていました。英語圏の方はどういう感覚なのか気になり質問させていただきました。今後の配信も楽しみにしています。ありがとうございます。
So they're saying that in anime, whenever people say we're nakama, the subtitles say, you know, we're friends, and friend and nakama is slightly different. So they want to know if the English-speaking community actually knows what nakama is. And no, I don't think they know what nakama is. Like, Google Translate would probably be like companion or like crew member. Like, for instance, in One Piece, if you're in the Mugiwara no Ichimi, the crew member would be nakama. But, you know, it's very different. Like, just because you're a crew member doesn't mean automatically you have that emotional connection. So the difference between friend and nakama... Ooh, this is hard. Like, you can... なんだろう。A nakama? 違う。A friend could be your nakama, but just because you are nakama doesn't mean you're friends. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Do you feel me? Do you guys feel me? Do you understand this? Like, you know, those, like, tsundere characters who are, I don't know, in an anime who are traveling with somebody, like their crew member or something, and they'll be like, he's not my friend. But, like, they're nakama, you know? They're in a group together. So I feel like friend is more... Nakama has a more emotional connection than friends, you know? It's deeper than family. Like, you don't have to be blood related, you know? It's just all emotional connections. So age doesn't matter, gender doesn't matter. I mean, you can say the same about friends, but I don't know how to explain the difference between friend and nakama. Friend and nakama. Friend seems a bit more fun, you know? Like, it seems like we're doing a lot of fun things together. I feel like nakama is more like, we're in this together, you know? Like, through all this, like, hard times and everything, like, you can count on me. Which you can't really say that about many friends, you know? Or is that just me? I don't know. Maybe you can't say that about friends. I'm just talking about my friends. My friends. Hi. But I feel like you need to have a deeper emotional connection to be a nakama. And you need to have gone through some hard times together to be a nakama. Hi. So in this case, Tokyo Revengers, the gang members, they're not friends. They're nakama. You know, so when their nakama is hurt, they should just make nakama English now because, you know, it comes in basically every anime. But yeah, you know, the guys in the manjikai are always there for each other. You know, when one person's hurt, the whole entire gang just, like, shows up to beat whoever hurt that person. So, for instance, when Patin's girlfriend was severely beat, one of the other very popular phrases from Tokyo Revengers is ひよってるやついねえよな, which is like, there's nobody here who's like scared, right? You know, when Tokyo Manjikai was about to go in to fight Mebius for Pachin's girlfriend. So, yeah, I like that, the empathy they have for each other. And I love Matsunochi Fuyu. My third time saying this. Hi. I don't know. I feel like these gang stories are very different depending on the country. For instance, in Japan, they don't use weapons. Weapons. Like, I feel like overseas, they would, you know, probably be guns involved, you know? If you watch, I guess, Western movies, then a lot of weapons would be involved. But, you know, Tokyo Revengers, I mean, because obviously there's a strict gun rule and also they're in middle school, not many weapons are involved. It's all in the fist. And also, I feel like that's another reason why I like Tokyo Revengers. It's because if you have weapons, I feel like if you're physically weak, you can, you know, beat the other members somehow. But, you know, they're fighting with just their fists. And the fact that Takemichi, he is so weak. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to say this, but Takemichi is so weak. He is so weak, but he has a very strong heart. You know, he has a strong heart, and that heart is always what keeps him going. So, なんだろう? It's hard to explain, but like, I like watching people who are weak fight until they can't fight anymore. Whereas in, you know, other movies, I feel like, you know, if you're weak, they'll just use weapons and be like, bam, yay, we won, you know. But it's like the weakling knowing he's weak, but continuing to fight with just his fist to save his companions or save his nakama and his like girlfriend is, I think, the I guess the best part about Tokyo Revengers. You know, it shows him growing because as an adult, like I said in the beginning, he's always used to giving up, and you know, he's living a miserable life as a 26-year-old. So I feel like him time traveling back in time and learning to never give up even if he's super weak and even if he's super scared, I feel like that growing up story is also one of the main factors that attract a lot of fans for Tokyo Revengers. はい。Well, it attracted me for sure. はい。ということで、ありがとうございます。That does it for this week's episode of Anime English Club. Make sure to follow us on X and other social media. Next episode, we'll continue with Tokyo Revengers and explore another fascinating aspect of Japanese language, keigo, or polite language, through the words of one of my favorite characters, Matsuno Chifuyu! Yay! I wanted to talk about him more this week, but I saved it for next week because the phrase I'm going to be using is from him. Hi! The Anime English Club wants to hear from you. Whether it's a scene or anime you want me to talk about, general English questions, or you just want to say hi, we want to hear from you. Email us at aec@1242.com. That's aec@1242.com. You can email me in either Japanese or English. 日本語でも英語でもメール待ってます。はい、そして、You also know that we have a YouTube channel. You can check the subtitles both in English and Japanese. Go to youtube.com/anime-english-club, or you can just search it by the title. Hi, also follow our X and everything. よろしくお願いします。では、that's the end for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you join us next week too. ありがとうございました。From the Nippon Hoso Podcast Station, this is the Anime English Club, hosted by me, Sal Yamaki. This episode was directed by Kensuke Yoshida and was written and produced by Shiori Tanaka of Nippon Broadcasting System, Japan.
島田秀平とオカルトさん、なんと公開収録が決まりました。日時は7月の12日土曜日、夕方5時半から6時半までの1時間です。会場は神奈川県の三浦海岸、京急三浦海岸駅すぐ三浦ファンビーチの特設ステージです。ゲストはなんと呪物コレクターの田中俊之さん。観覧は無料。どなたでもご覧いただけます。さらに会場では番組ステッカーをプレゼント。詳しくは島田秀平とオカルトさんの公式 X をご覧ください。